Everybody's on? Is
Yep.
Attorney Baldwin on? All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item number 3, to hear and consider and act upon the following appointments to the Charter Revision Commission. Marlene Batista of Brookmere Drive, Christopher J. Brogan of Southwood Road, Brian T. Caffarelli of College Place, J.R. Gross of Abbey Road, Pamela Iacono of Fife Road, John Matola of Surrey Lane, and John M. Wynn of Harbor Road. Do I have a motion to approve?
Madam First Selectman, can I make a motion to individually vote on each of the candidates?
Attorney Baldwin, can you weigh in? Because I know that our charge said we had to appoint all the members within 30 days of the charge. So if we split it, I don't really know how this works. Attorney Baldwin, would you be able to weigh in here?
I will say that I did, as he's tuning in, I did ask him this question when we were talking offline, and he did say that he thought that would be appropriate. I certainly don't want to speak for him as he is here, but I made the motion with the understanding that it would be possible if we had
Hi.
that support.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. Yes, no, that's correct. You can vote on them individually. That's the short answer.
Okay, it didn't make sense to me because, for example, if we didn't have all the members, we wouldn't be within compliance of the charge.
Right. We would have to, if not all 7 members were voted in today, you would have to have another vote within the 30 days, and there's still time to do that. And that is what you would have to do.
So I have a motion before me. I'm happy to expand on it if anyone wants to second it, or I don't know.
I'll second it.
So my reasoning in doing this, and obviously the 3 of us as a body have not had a chance to do this. FOIA does not allow for those conversations, but through my conversations with Attorney Baldwin and Attorney Steve Mednick, I had talked about my reservations about supporting the members, and I've had a chance to speak with all but Marlene, and that was due to our scheduling not aligning. I have concerns about the Strategic Planning Committee, just both from a procedural and a philosophical approach to this. One, procedurally, while Attorney Baldwin and I talked and he said their charge was complete, what I have looked at is that they still just have a draft of their charge of the plan on the website, and also their most recent minutes are, I believe, just about a year old, and there was some discussion about them meeting again operationally. And so, one, from just a process perspective, while Attorney Baldwin said that once they turned in their charge, the committee was disbanded, I sort of challenged that just because I didn't believe that they were, because they haven't presented officially that plan. That being said, I also have an issue with the members of the strategic plan, not personally, and I want to reiterate that. And I have had nice conversations with both John Wynn and Jay, and I thank you both for your time. And again, sorry, Marlene, we couldn't connect, although I don't believe she's on the call. Just because I think the community hasn't had an opportunity to really stretch and weigh in and talk about the strategic plan in a meaningful way. While I think the strategic Planning Committee has a place to participate in the conversations. I don't think that they should be having a majority seat at the table. And so for those reasons, I wanted to pull out the individual, the 7 individuals being up, because I will be able to support some and not all of the proposed candidates. Further, I'm concerned that there isn't broad representation. We don't have a person of color on this board, and that was something I felt strongly about, to have an inclusive board in that regard. I have the utmost faith ultimately that the talents will prevail here, but I just felt from the outset I couldn't support a group that had both the strategic planning members front and center, and it lacked that diverse, inclusive voice that I think is going to be so imperative moving forward. So those are my concerns, thus my reason for wanting to pull out the individual votes.
So I will address some of the things that you brought up. The strategic plan committee, their charge was to submit a report, and they did do that. They worked for 3 years, and it was really one of the top reasons why I felt and was actually elated that they agreed to be on it, was the fact that that committee spent 3 years literally interviewing everyone in this town, every town employee, all the police, the fire, all elected officials, the state delegation, civic groups, religious groups, neighborhood groups, set up survey meetings with each RTM district. I mean, literally interviewed our entire town, and has, I felt, a really good grasp on connecting with our community and had good knowledge. And originally they didn't really want to be on it because they had just spent a considerable amount of time in service to the community. But I just felt that their experience and their interactions with so many different groups would be a real plus to be on this charter revision. And they are just knowing so many things that the average citizen really doesn't know about all aspects of our town. So I felt that it was a huge plus to have them on. And I'm sorry that you disagree. And they wouldn't be a majority on the board. It is a 7-member board, and it's 3 members of the Strategic Planning Committee, and they're individuals too who live in our community with different backgrounds. And as I shared with the board when we first brought up charter revision, that this is going to be an open process. The entire community will participate in it and have their input brought forward to the members of the committee. And so any individual who wants to share their opinions and listen in is going to have that opportunity to participate. And again, it does come back to the Board of Selectmen for a vote. And I sort of envisioned this where there would be multiple items up for consideration, not just one blanket or package that you either say yay or nay to, that there would be multiple items that would come back to the Board of Selectmen for approval. And then ultimately, whether I or you or Tom does not like any individual item, it's really, in my opinion, not up to us. It's up to the voters of Fairfield. And I would never block something simply because I just don't like it. I would want to have that vetted through this commission, who I believe are all intelligent, free-thinking individuals, and some who have served, like the 2 elected officials I chose, on multiple boards, so have that experience and knowledge. I kind of lean toward attorneys, which I thought were probably helpful, and the strategic planning because of their broad experience for 3 years, engaging with pretty much every group in our entire town. So again, I think that this is just the first step of the process, and there's going to be a lot of interaction going on, and this all comes back to us at the end. And then ultimately the voters of Fairfield will have this all different, whatever they come up with, on the ballot to vote on, as I think is the right way for our community to have that option to vote on different things. So that's just my part of it, and I'll just open it up to the board. Tom, would you like to comment?
Sure. A couple quick questions, just so that I understand. First of all, I agree, Madam First Selectwoman, with your commentary on the process here, as well as our role in the process. This either goes to Mr. Mednick, is he on the call, or Mr. Baldwin. As for how this gets, how any recommendations from the committee get to the voters, and whether they go as separate items or how they get grouped, who has ultimate say over that? Does the Board of Selectmen have that ultimate say?
Yes, this is Attorney Baldwin again. Attorney Metnick is not on, but I can answer your question, and it is that the Board of Selectmen does vote on what is to be presented to the voters by way of referendum, and that can include several items. It doesn't have to be a single up or down on
Right.
a package of proposed changes. So it comes to this board for that vote, and so it's very much up to the Board of Selectmen as to what is ultimately going to be presented to the voters.
So we can break that. So Jim, we can break that if we want to have one big question, 2 questions, 5 questions, 8 questions, whatever it is. Our board decides how to chunk that out and get it to the voters. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I would like to add that you are going to collaborate with the commission insofar as the commission is not going to just come to you and that you won't hear
Right.
from them again. To the contrary, they're going to report to you, and they're going to get your thoughts on where they are in the process and what they're proposing in a draft form, and they'll get a feel for, what the board is thinking. So
Right.
so there's very much of a collaborative effort,
Right. And just
even before you have that ultimate vote.
yeah, no, I understood that part, and thank you. I understood that from our discussion with the attorney a meeting or so ago, directly, but I wanted to reconfirm how it gets to the end voter on that.
Yeah.
The other item, and it's something that I hadn't thought of, so thank you, Nancy, is the whole comment regarding the strategic planning committee and the disbandment of that committee. Jim, how is that typically formally done, the disbandment of a committee? B, was that report that they gave us in May or June or whenever that was, my apologies, I cannot remember. Was that the final report? And then kind of what's the go forward? We never voted on that. We discussed it, but there was not there was no other action on that. So, and I'm asking the question. It was interesting because it had not come up as relates to the strategic planning committee before, and I'm asking the question because we received such kind of clear direction from Attorney Mednick related to who can be on our charter revision and who can't be.
Right. So the short answer is that the strategic planning committee finished their report. It's my understanding that that is their final report, and according to their charge, their term ends upon completion of their task. And it's my understanding that that has been done, and therefore their terms have ended.
So
that's per the charge.
Yeah, now we did not vote on that report. We did not vote to accept it. We did not vote to decline it. We did not vote next steps on that. We just heard the report. Is that technically the end? I'm just asking because I don't know.
It's my understanding that that is the case because this is a blueprint document. It's not something which is actual set policy. It's something for town boards and commissions to follow or take into consideration when they're making decisions on actual items. But it's my understanding that that's the report. It's done.
Okay, has that, go ahead.
If I may interject, excuse me, Tom,
No, not
just
at all.
to be clear, it does still say draft on the website. And as I said, there was operationally, it looked like the plans to have a meeting after their November meeting. So just wanted to put that into this discussion and then do have some follow-up.
So there was wait, I'm sorry, what are you saying about?
It looked
there
like
are,
they had intended but canceled meetings for after, I think the latest meeting, and I'm sorry, it's not right in front of me, but the latest meeting they had was November 2020 with discussion for a future meeting.
Got it.
And per the website, it is still listed as a draft. I'm not, so I don't know what that does for it being a final.
Mr. Baldwin or Mr. Nguyen, can you respond, or both of you, to that?
I think I've explained that it's my understanding, and maybe Mr. Nguyen can correct me if I'm wrong, that they consider that their final report and that their job is done. If I'm wrong in that regard, then we have a very technical issue to address in terms of those members being appointed to this Charter Revision Commission. But I don't know that to be the case. It's my opinion based on the information I have that it is not. But maybe John can chime in.
If I may, I have some additional follow-up. John, I don't know if you were chiming in, but Madam First Selectwoman.
Hi, it's John Nguyen. I was trying to get unmuted. Am I
Hi, John.
unmuted? Am I
Yes,
unmuted?
No,
John.
we
Yes,
can hear
John.
you.
Yes,
can
John,
hear.
you are unmuted.
Okay, excellent. Yes, I think some of the observations from Nancy, our last meeting was in either November or December. We did not set a 2021 schedule. The plan was to present to the first Selectwoman and the Board of Selectmen, and then figure out if there were any follow-up activities. I believe when I presented at the May or June meeting that Mr. Flynn referenced, I indicated that we viewed the report was final at that point, except for any nominal edits. As far as redirecting any aspect of the plan, there's not any feedback that we received. There's no comments and no suggestions to go back and reevaluate any specific topic. So the state of the report, although it might say draft, I would say that it should be viewed as a final report, which is what I think we communicated and discussed at the May or June meeting that we're discussing.
I think you did. I think you did say that. My question was more, and Mr. Baldwin said, I think, right, kind of a technical question as to what constitutes the end of a committee, and do you have to vote? How does that work? So that's what I wanted to make sure I's dotted, T's crossed on this. And as Mr. Baldwin said, we do have a little bit of time if something wasn't appropriately tied up here. That's what I was thinking.
If I may, I have a follow-up comment.
Sure. From my perspective, sure.
Madam First Selectwoman.
Sure, go ahead, Nancy.
Thank you. Ultimately, this may be something, as you suggested, we may just disagree. I wanted to make something abundantly clear, just both for the public and the individuals to whom I'm referring. I have great respect for the work of the committee. Individually, I've had very great conversations with John Nguyen, with Marlene, with Jay, not Marlene recently about this decision, but with John and Jay. And for me, this is not about the individual. It's not about respecting the work they've done, the extensive process that they went through. My concern is that they have now presented a plan or a blueprint for which there are very specific recommendations and points of view, some controversial. One of the things I love, and John Nguyen gave me the expression, no sacred cows. I hadn't heard that before, and I love it. I think nothing should be off the table. And I often say I'm not afraid of having the conversation. I'm usually more afraid of not having them. So I never mind addressing the elephant in the room. I just think that in this case, there are a bunch of elephants, and the community hasn't had a chance to weigh in. And while I appreciate that there is a process and we will be involved and all of that, I will wish ultimately the committee that gets selected, I will wish them well. I know that there are strong, great, smart voices at the table here. My concern is not about the people, but about the committee on which they have just served so diligently for 3 years with, again, very specific points of view. And while it's not about being able to take I'm sure that they each individually have the ability to separate that from the work at hand. As I said, out of the gate, to stack that deck feels concerning for me, and coupled with a lack of inclusion from a diversity perspective, to have a seat at that table, a lack of a diverse voice having a seat at the table, that's concerning for me. So kind of coupled with that, it is why I will have trouble supporting, again, not because of the individuals, but because of the committee that they have just spent so much time being a part of. So I just wanted to clarify that. And ultimately, you know, we may just simply have to agree to disagree.
So, you know, I
This
would
is
just comment on that, Nancy, that I actually think it's the reverse. I think people who spent 3 years literally digging down into our community in a way that no other individual in our town has are the perfect people to be on it, because they did so much work, learning about our entire town, everything, how it works, how our boards work, how our commissions work, that average everyday people don't really know about. And so to me, that was an advantage, and I thought it would help. And again, they are just 3 members, and I thought picking an unaffiliated, a Republican, and a Democrat from that committee was the most balanced, and making up an entire committee of 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, and 1 unaffiliated was the most balanced that it could be. And that is what I was looking for. And I just think that their experience is valuable, extraordinarily valuable, because they did 3 years of work learning about our town, which I think, again, benefits the entire commission. There are 3 members, there's 7 members on the committee, and they will be having in-depth discussions, engaging everyone in the community, probably very similar to what the strategic plan did, engaging all the different groups, I hope, will come forth and participate. So I hear your argument, but I simply don't really understand it.
Well, I guess I could just say one more clarifying point, and again, I don't need to belabor it. The clarifying point I would make is that we haven't had while they have immersed themselves in the community. Even when I looked back at the presentation to the Board of Ed, there was a question about who was surveyed. So I just think that it would be important for the community to weigh in on this plan now that they have put it together based on those findings. I hear what you're saying. I understand from your perspective why you use that criteria. I just, again, I think we just don't agree here. And because you brought up the party affiliation, I would say for me, it was disappointing. And I spoke about this with Attorney Baldwin because he was my conduit here. As the minority leader in town, it was disappointing not to be able to participate in a meaningful way about who those Democrats would be. As I said, it's for me, I appreciate that there is an acknowledgement and that you've chosen a balanced body, but I would have wanted to participate in choosing who those Democrats were, in part, but again, not because it's legally or to the letter of the law what is required. But again, that is why I have a voice here at this table and why I'm raising my concerns. So,
this is Attorney Baldwin. Can I just make a comment about that? And Selectwoman Lefkowitz, you have every opportunity, as we discussed, to propose other members, and we had discussed those possibilities. And so that is something that you are able to do, but to my knowledge, you have not presented any, and so we have the list that's before the board. The other thing I want to
That's not true.
the
Sorry,
other thing
Jim,
want to
I did
separate-
present. Sorry, Jim, I did.
You have every right to present those people to the board.
Oh,
And
I understand, but again, you know,
Okay.
yeah, but I did present them to you.
But that's not the same as presenting them to the board. And I believe that you've been in this position long enough to appreciate the distinction between our offline conversations and those which take place in a public forum where names are presented and
Right,
the like.
but by the same
So,
token, you can appreciate that a lot of the work does get done between when we have these conversations, obviously not directly with my counterparts because of FOIA rules, but in the interest of not wanting to take citizens who may not be, you know, there has been historically a way that we've done this where we talk about it. So let's, you know, let's talk about the whole picture.
The other point,
talk about it.
yeah, the only other point I want to make is based on Mr. Wynn's comments. I am convinced that there is no problem with the former members of the Strategic Planning Committee to be appointed to this board.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
If there's no further comment.
So I want to, hey, if I might, Madam First Selectwoman, first of all, I want to thank Nancy for her commentary and the thought, and for actually raising that item on the strategic planning thing. I thought that was a good item. I am comfortable with the selections to serve on the committee. First of all, I know most, if not all of them, and they're fine quality individuals. I enjoy their company. I've enjoyed our conversations both privately and publicly. I've worked and served with several of them, so I'm very thrilled for that. I think they bring a nice broad diversity of experience. Several of them have served on several different boards and commissions in town, and I think that will bring a nice diversity to the charge and to the task at hand. So I appreciate all that. I'm also very comfortable largely because of the process, and because I know and I plan to be intimately involved in the process. And at the end of the day, the fact that the ultimate decision goes before the taxpayers and the voters, and I think that's very important, and it's really the ultimate check and balance on the decisions of the committee. So, Nancy, I greatly appreciate you bringing up your topics, though. Thank you. You spoke with eloquence, and I completely understand those. So thank you so much for the discussion.
Okay, so I guess we have a motion on the table to split the members.
Yeah, we do. We need to vote on that, I guess.
Okay. So all in favor of voting to split the members?
Aye.
I'll vote to split the members because we've done that for other appointments.
Okay, I will vote no. Motion carries 2-1. We will go now to the first one. To act upon the appointment to the Charter Revision Commission of Marlene Batista. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nancy, your vote?
Is a no.
Okay, motion carries 2-1. Motion to approve to the Charter Revision Commission, Christopher J. Brogan. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Motion to approve to the Charter Revision Commission, Brian T. Caffarelli. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Motion to approve to the Charter Revision Commission, J.R. Gross. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that's a no vote for me.
Motion carries 2-1. Motion to approve to the Charter Revision Commission, Pamela C. Iacono. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Motion to approve to the Charter Revision Commission, John Matola.
So moved.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Motion to approve John M. Nguyen to the Charter Revision Commission. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
And I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And that's a no for me.
Motion carries 2-1. And I would just like to say to those members who are on the call, I really do appreciate your willingness to step up to do this work. It is important work for our community. I spent a lot of time looking over a lot of different names, people I really thought would bring experience and knowledge and an open mind to this process. And I know it's going to be a lot of work. But I think it's going to be, as I said to Mr. Matola when I called and asked him, you know, I think it's actually going to be really interesting and engaging. And I hope you do enjoy it. I think it's one of those experiences that we don't really get that many opportunities to have. And I look forward to watching your work and being engaged and hearing what you hear and what you're going to be looking at. And thank you again very much.
If I also may,
Sure.
I want to wish this committee of 7 lots of good luck. I think that it is a very serious and big undertaking, the biggest perhaps that the town has undertaken. And I do have confidence that this group will come together and work diligently. Pam, I didn't reach out to you. I know your work and have followed you, and I know that this is a passion, and I know how seriously you take this, and I appreciate it and applaud it. John Matola, same for you. Although we have talked, I had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Caffarelli yesterday. We had a great discussion. I know, and I've known him a long time. I know how seriously he takes this work. And for the 3 members that and Chris Brogan, we spoke yesterday also and know his long history. And for the 3 members that, again, I did not support here today, I support them as people. I support the work they've done. I have great respect for it. And I do know that you will take this work very seriously. And I too look forward to engaging in the process. It is a serious one. So I just want to wish you all well and say thank you for serving.
I would like to say congratulations on your appointment. Thank you for your willingness to serve, and I look forward with working with all of you, several of you once again.
Thank you. And thank you for all coming on, those of you who could make it today. And Attorney Mednick is going to be, I think may have already been sent some information, but is going to be in contact with you to help facilitate, which I think is going to be greatly helpful to the committee to have that facilitator this time, which our prior charter revision commissions did not have. And so I wish you well, and I look forward to seeing you all again. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Our next item is item number 4, to hear and consider and act upon a request from the Conservation Commission to use funds from the H. Smith Richardson Conservation Fund to purchase and install an automatic gate at the entrance to Cascades in the amount of $25,000. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have our new Conservation Director, Tim Bishop, is on the line. And Tim, I'll hand it over to you.
Hey, thank you. Nice to meet everyone who I haven't met yet. Thank you for having me. Are there any questions regarding this project based on my memo? Or should I just go kind of give a bird's eye view of what we're looking for?
Yeah, please give us a bird's eye view.
Great, thank you. So just getting here, my start in August, I've learned that this project has started and stalled, many times over the most recent years. The purpose of the gate is to control some of the unauthorized use of users entering the Cascades Lake Mohegan space, to after hours, early morning hours or late night hours. The gate would be an automatic gate at the entrance of the park area, the parking lot area, and it will operate on a timer, so to let people in and out based on the typical sunrise and sunset timing hours. If the public is in the parking area and the gate closes, it would let them out, but then close again. If it was approaching sunset. Most recently, there was a Jeep that was four-wheeling in there that had to be towed out. Driver had no insurance. Police dealt with that. So it's just another example of the riffraff, and hopefully the gate would help to curb some of that. There's also a lot of unauthorized dumping on town open space from the surrounding neighborhood. Grass clippings, branches, other debris. So we're just hoping that this gate will help curb some of that as well. So I think it's a good step in the right direction with managing, I guess, public use in this kind of isolated area. And I think the history of some abuse goes back to 40 or 50 years from what I've heard from long-term residents.
Thank you, Tim. And I just want to piggyback on Tim's comments. We get a lot of complaints from the neighbors over there about this. And so, this is a secluded area, and, people go down there at night and do things, they really shouldn't be doing. And so this is a safety issue, not just for the neighborhood, but also for anyone going down there. So this is, you're right, Tim, this has been a longstanding issue. So we're trying to address it now.
And it started back in my lap being so new from neighborhood complaints. So that's why I started digging into it and saying, hey, what do we do here? And, I was told, oh, we started a gate project and it stalled given the recent department activity. So I picked the ball back up, and that's why I'm here today to authorize the use of the gate priced. Just to explain, we got the gate contractor. We have an electrician, and DPW is going to dig a small trench from the gate to the nearest telephone pole for power supply, which is about 25-30 feet. So I think everyone's on board. We're under budget based on the pricing by about $1,000. So that's kind of where we're at. Happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yes, Tim, first of all, welcome. And in a long line of department heads, your first introduction to us is asking for money. So congratulations for
Thank you.
completing the string. Hey, quick question. Who actually controls the conservation fund, and how much money is in that fund at this point in time?
Our August summary that came to us totals $494,283.73.
Okay.
I was told that I would need this board's approval to make that withdrawal. I'm not sure, once that's authorized, how we actually get it. I guess that would be a finance question.
Yeah, where does that money come from? Like who's do you know, and how is it invested in any of that? Is Jared on? Maybe he could tell us.
Yeah, he might have a better idea.
What, can you ask me the question again? It was funny you asked the question about how much was in it. I had somebody else looking that up, and trying to anticipate that. What was the
Yeah.
other question?
So where did those funds come from, and where are they kept?
Where did they come from originally?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
Can we find that out just as an interest? Because I don't
They
remember this previously. I know
they
it's,
are invested.
yeah. So you handle the investment. Who handles the investment of that? It's the regular town assets and the investment funds?
Yes.
Commingled or separate?
I believe it's a separate fund.
Yeah, where they invested then? Do you know?
I can get that answer too.
Yeah, no, if you could, I'd just like to know that. Tim, do you have a long list of projects? I know you're brand new. Do you have a listing of projects waiting for utilization of these funds? What I'm trying to do is actually get the context. I'm not against, I know we need the gate. I get exactly what's going on here, but you're brand new to the job. And I'm trying to make sure that we've done our due diligence and there's no kind of, oh, damn, we also need 125 for this. We need 100 for this. I want to know where we stand, what projects are kind of lined up that need funding on this, and how this got prioritized, other than, it was at the top of the pile when you got here.
Yeah,
This is a
I don't
pretty-
have a list at the moment. This really, like I said, was driven based on the phone calls from the neighborhood, and since it had already started, a lot of the legwork and pricing and stuff had already been completed. So I guess you could consider it a low
Priority.
Yeah. But what really started me driving it was when I got the police report, of the off-roading going on. I moved that to the front of what
Yeah.
short list I do have.
Yep. No, I
And-
understand it.
So
But is there anything else that you're aware of, Tim, that you're looking at right now that would be utilization of these funds, or not right now?
not at the moment, no. And
Yeah.
it's on the bank statement that we get is BNY, or Bank of New York Mellon type of fund.
Okay, so, and Jared, you're managing that, or your department's managing that? Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Jared? He might be on
This is
mute.
Attorney Baldwin.
Hey.
It was created with the original grant of the property to the town, so it was done pursuant to a deed. That trust was established, and I believe that the funds must be used for that, for those purposes, for the property. It's not
That's what I
something that
thought.
is
Yeah.
fungible. It's not fungible for the Conservation Commission to
Right.
do anything it wants. It must be related to that property.
Thank you, Jim. That's what I would have thought. You're 100% positive on how it was funded and all that kind of stuff, just because you started off by
I
saying you
looked at-
think. Yeah, go ahead.
I looked at this a year ago in great detail, but I confess that I haven't revisited it. But that's my recollection. I'm quite certain of it. In terms of it not being money that can be used for other conservation purposes unrelated to the property.
Okay, and you were involved in the
so-
original
so-
discussions of this a year ago before Tim got here and all that before.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. And if anything fits the definition of how those funds can be utilized, this kind of project is most definitely it.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much. I have no further questions, Madam First Selectwoman.
Yeah, and just, hello, nice to meet you in this forum.
Likewise, thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you all.
I will
Alright.
waive the reading of this next item. I'll make a motion to waive the reading.
Right, thank you for that. However, I do have an amended motion for this item, and because you do not have it, I would like, unfortunately, we'll have to read it. Okay, so, I need a motion, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of American Rescue Plan Act grant funds in an aggregate amount of up to 24,830,536 and appropriating 24,790 of said funds for the costs related to various projects. Whereas on March 11, 2021, the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, the ARPA, was enacted, which includes $1.6 billion in relief for local governments. And whereas the town of Fairfield and the town is expected to receive a total of $24,830,536 in ARPA funds from the Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Fund and the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, the Recovery Fund grant. Whereas to date, the town has received $12,415,283 of the Recovery Fund grant, with an additional $12,415,283 expected to be received by June 2022. And whereas the town desires to accept the Recovery Fund grant, appropriate said funds for costs associated with the project set forth in the attached Exhibit 1 and the amounts designated for each project as set forth in Exhibit 1. Now, therefore, it is resolved that the town is authorized to accept the Recovery Fund grant, and it is further resolved that 24,790 of the Recovery Fund grant funds, subject to availability, be appropriated for costs associated with the project set forth in the attached Exhibit 1 in the amounts designated for each project as set forth in Exhibit 1. And it is further resolved that the first select woman is authorized to take all necessary actions to effectuate in an intent of this resolution. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, very good. Sorry about that.
I tried to follow along with where the change was.
It
At the
was
very beginning.
minimal. It was regarding the money, the cost. It was in red, so it was just the 24,790 as opposed to saying appropriating amount up to 830, 536 and appropriating 24,790.
Okay.
So I'll just obviously we've discussed this quite a bit. We had the workshop back in July. We had a specific meeting of our own to have follow-up questions from members of the Board of Selectmen, and we supplied all information for those questions. And so I think you're pretty familiar with it. I feel like I could read this in my sleep at this point.
Are we voting as one?
Yes.
Or are we separating it out? Because I understand the Board of Finance is separating it out, or had asked for it to be separated out, and the same with the RTM. So
they asked if it could be amended, so Attorney Baldwin can elaborate on this, but at the Board of Finance meeting, it was asked if items could be voted out, so to speak, or cut. And he explained, yes, they could. Amendments could be made to remove items, but he also was very clear with the Board of Finance that nobody can put items back in. So to be clear, if an item is cut, that doesn't mean that some item will come back or be brought forward to replace it. So this is the list. And I did share with the leadership on the RTM during a discussion that I know certain people have pet projects or certain items that they like. I, again, did exhaustive work on this. We spent literally hundreds of hours putting together this list in a way that, works within the parameters of the guidelines, tries to hit every sort of box throughout our community and give some benefit in some way to our community. And we allowed our, the members of our town, our community to weigh in on these items. You've received some of those emails. I've received a whole lot more. And we modified it slightly to include flood and erosion and some other items to meet that sort of interest that came forward. And so that's why I am recommending we vote on this as a package. If of course members are free to try to make amendments to remove items, but I do want to be very clear that we are very busy dealing with a lot that's going on right here. The flooding issues, the fill pile issues, which by the way are enormous and never ending. We will be building the budget and start preparing for that. There is the reorganization. There is work that we're doing to in our town government to try to improve efficiency. There's a lot going on. So I wanted to be very clear to the leadership on the RTM and to the members of the Board of Finance that at this point in time, I don't really envision myself having the time to put together other projects to come forward because it simply is, there's just too much. There's only 24 hours in a day. There's not that many hours. So
To that end, can I?
that's just my piece that I wanted to share with both of you. And if there's any questions, I'm assuming you still have your copy of the American Rescue Plan with all the details, and then the sheet that lays everything out. The only new items were the Fairfield Theater Company for free outdoor concerts, when the Fairfield Theater Company came to me and talked to me about that. And I think I wanted to, could you shut that door? I think we discussed this at our last meeting, but I don't really remember right now. And the flood erosion, was the slide in. We put that in there for that study for I believe that's $400,000 for that. And we added the digitizing of records. We're trying really hard to, modernize, and there's just filing cabinets everywhere in town hall, and it's very inefficient for the staff, and it's just inefficient in general. So we want to work on that as well. So I'll just open it up.
So, understanding what you just said about not being able to put items back in. So then what happens, for instance, and I'm just making this up because it's the recent item you just mentioned, the digitizing of records. If I had made a motion to take out that $125,000, it gets supported and it votes, then what happens with that space of 125,000? What?
So it'll stay in the ARPA fund, the general fund.
That we receive and that we have then 2 years to, okay.
So the money, all the money for the projects, according to what Jared has shared with me and Attorney Baldwin, will be drawn from that fund as the projects move forward.
Nancy, can I ask?
Yeah, and I have a couple of other sort of follow-up. Go ahead.
So we don't, so Madam First Selectwoman, we don't lose the funds if they get voted down. They go into abeyance, and then at some future time that I would just presume has to be before a date certain, they can be reallocated for appropriation to another pot, to another project. Is that correct?
If it's within the time period, correct. But
what's the time period? Do we know? Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, the time period is, it has to be obligated by the end of 2024, by December 31st, 2024.
Okay, so there's a period of time. I just wanted to get a clarification on that. Okay, thank you. That answers my question on that one. And I guess, is that the same answer for, this is the first time I've ever been asked to vote on a acceptance of the funds that it didn't equal, and obviously this is an extraordinary circumstance, but it doesn't equal the funds that we're appropriating at the same time. So I would guess this $40,536 would go into that same fund and then is eligible to be assigned to a specific project before that same date. Is that the way that's going to work, Jared?
Yes, exactly. It's in the special revenue account now, and that's where it would remain until action is taken on it.
Okay. Nance, my apologies if I cut you off. Please go right ahead.
You didn't. Thank you, if I may, Madam First Selectwoman.
Sure, go right
Can you
ahead.
just remind me, and I'm sorry because I have done exhaustive talking to people and research, and I really appreciate so much of what is in here, and I appreciate how diligently, how hard you've worked to come up and touched many areas. So I'm asking one question just because I'm literally in this moment not remembering. The permeable surfacing, that line item for $1.4 million, can you just remind me what that is?
So, we had originally asked Mark if there was something we could do for the business community, and he said that there wasn't the funds that we were giving out during the COVID were expended. There wasn't any businesses asking for additional funds to help them. But one of the biggest things that they have been asking for is for this this permeable surfacing project downtown because of flooding that impacts the businesses down there. So in the thing, it says utilize and install green infrastructure to mitigate flooding and improve resiliency in downtown Fairfield. It employs a range of strategies to reduce flooding effects on critical infrastructure and key businesses in the central business district by decreasing runoff and peak flows. Following Superstorm Sandy and Irene, the town of Fairfield retained a consultant to conduct an engineering study to assess the feasibility of using green infrastructure approaches to reduce downtown flooding and to improve the resiliency of key infrastructure. The downtown business district is a key economic hub, which has been increasingly prone to flooding in recent years due to excessive urban storm water runoff. And it says there was a big map and stuff. The study concluded that soil and groundwater conditions are favorable and that there are significant opportunities within the downtown core to utilize green infrastructure approaches that could help significantly reduce runoff peak flows and volumes and lessen the severity of frequency of flooding. And so they had recommended a range of approaches, including of installation of curb extensions, rain gardens, tree boxes, porous pavement, permeable pavers, and a whole host of things. The project intends to build on some of the work that has already been done, including the installation of underground galleries to provide additional retention capacity in Sherman Green.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
So another procedural question, because again, the stickiest wicket, if you will, for me, when I think about this ARPA funding, and it's kind of what I perceive, and again, after long conversations with Jared, and I've heard you and I've listened to you and I've listened to you, Madam First Selectman, and Tom, you around the table, and I've considered all of it. I've considered what Fairfield taxpayer has said. I've considered the inbound from some of our most vulnerable. And one of the hardest nuggets for me to get around is that paving line item, which is such a big one. So I guess my question is, if I make a motion from a procedural standpoint to take that out, and it does not have support, I don't mean to kind of bury the lead, but if it does not have majority support here, am I then having to vote on the whole thing? And is that then what happens?
Baldwin, do you want to answer?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a simple matter of making that motion to amend. And if that motion fails, then the main motion goes back on the table. And that's inclusive of everything because that motion to amend failed.
Nancy, I don't know if you're on mute. I can't hear you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. One of the things, am I?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can I comment? Okay. One of the things, as I said, that I've been circling back to, and I just read a recent report from Data Haven, which was a profile of Fairfield, an equity profile, and it talked about 33% of Fairfield's households are cost burdened. And I've just been thinking about where the line items lie, and I listen, and there is literally so much in this report, most everything. The paving has been the thing I keep coming back to as kind of an operational expense that's, I understand it's something that we need to do. I would rather see it in our operational budget down the line. I would rather look at that $3 million. Perhaps, as I said, there's a way to consider what Fairfield taxpayer has suggested, to look at some of our vulnerable communities, ways that we can offset it. So for me, that $3 million is money I would like to see spent elsewhere. So for that reason, I'm going to make the motion to remove that line item from this proposal. There's no second. Okay.
Yeah, can I, I'll make my comments. Once again, I appreciate the perspective on it. Here's a thought for your consideration. When we had our discussions both at budget time, as well as when we talked about the capital improvement plan for the town, of which I was involved with it, the first select woman's urging about a year and a half ago or so. One of the items that we found that was in desperate need was our roads, our infrastructure, our paving. Largely because, and I want to separate this from the Phil Potts discussion because it has nothing to do with that. I think DPW, years ago, DPW management tried a variety of different techniques on our roads in order to save a fair amount of money and to extend the useful lives of certain roads for a period of time. I think at this point, we can agree, and perhaps not, opinions may vary, that there was a variety of successes and failures relative to what they did through that period of time, which is okay because we got a few more years out of it, and because if you don't try, you don't know. But at this point, we do know that our paving program is significantly behind where it needs to be. And in fact, we were told by DPW, who has hired or is in the process of hiring an outside firm, Madam First Selectwoman, maybe you could speak to that, to help them develop a prioritization plan, that there would be a required catch-up adjustment, and that these funds, and in fact funds throughout Fairfield, would need to be spent in the next several years to fix the paving situation that we have at a variety of our locations. And between that and the fact, when I look at this list, many of these items are either mandated by the state. I think of the body cam and the dash cam expenditures, or they were already included in our capital expenditure plan. There will be significant savings in the near term on our debt service costs. Well, really not near term, but over the next 20 years or so on our debt service costs by implementing many of these items in here. So I am confident from that perspective that the fiscal considerations have been taken into account. Now, that doesn't mean that all things are equal on this list. That doesn't mean that there aren't various tweaks and puts and takes you might have. But in general, I really respect the work that the first select woman and her team have done. And Brenda, not for the time that you actually put in, that I knew would happen, but for actually the thoughtfulness and the well-roundedness of the list, and trying to hit a variety of different areas. And I too read the piece by Fairfield Taxpayer and have spoken with some of their people because I thought it was a thoughtful piece that they put together. I am comfortable that fiscally this is pretty responsible, and people can agree to disagree. Reasonable people can agree to disagree, but this does actually help the taxpayer of Fairfield. And having been intimately involved with that list of capital projects over the next 10 years or so, which, by the way, that needs list is very long and many of those items very critical. And I think in large measure, this goes a long way towards helping with those items. So sorry for my soliloquy, but I wanted to put it in the context I'm looking at it.
No, thank you, Tom. And just to elaborate, the plan that you were talking about, assessing all the roads in town, was voted on in the budget. And actually, you may have missed that I mentioned this, but we had talked quite a bit when we were talking about the ARPA. That that survey or that report will be to us in October.
Good.
John Marsilio said, which is actually great. I know we won't be able to start paving till the spring, but this, I think, is such an important thing. And when Marsilio had told me about it when he first came in, that all the other towns he worked at did these kinds of things, so they had a blueprint, and that's going to give us, you know, a really good document to be able to follow. I think in the past there was some politics involved with paving. And so I think that this document is going to be the one we follow, and the roads that need whatever they need based on that document is what I want to do. And to answer your question, Nancy, some of your colleagues on the Board of Finance brought this up, you know, and have asked me this repeatedly, and I've answered it repeatedly in public. We are not taking paving out of the operating budget. As Tom mentioned, this is for catch up. And, you know, while paving isn't a sexy item, so to speak, it literally impacts every single person in the town. People drive on our roads, and it's really one of the most basic government functions to have safe roads and sidewalks. And we get so many residents in our town telling us about our potholes and about our really lousy sidewalks, you know, that are dangerous, and for pedestrians, for bikers, for walkers, for young parents with strollers. So, you know, this is, I think, an item that really is going to touch so many people. And again, I'll just reiterate that, you know, this is not the last money the town of Fairfield's ever spending. And to Tom's point, we are going to be taking, this will be relieving some pressure off our operating budget, in the sense that for the police items, we won't have to fund anything for 10 years, which is great because none of those items could be bonded. So those would result in an operating cost expenditure, and that keeps taxes low, and it does reduce our debt service. So again, we can, I'm always willing to engage in conversations about items being put on the Board of Selectmen agenda for consideration for the boards that are worthy and worthwhile. I'm always ready, willing to talk those things and discuss those things.
Can I make a comment? Because I will say, over the months since we've been talking about this, I have flipped and flopped with every, I'm supporting, I can't support. And
Right.
I want to impress how I think how seriously we all take this. And I applaud all the questions that come from the elected leadership across all boards. And ultimately, I am not going to support it today. But I do want to reiterate that I respect the work. I know the choices. Again, I think that it's, you are in the position to make these executive decisions. I know it will have its support. So I want to, it's not, I respect the position that you're in, and the choices you make. And there are a lot of great things on this list. But I also recognize that sometimes my only recourse when I am in a minority position is to represent a point of view to be considered. And for me today, I'm sitting at the table, and I know that some of the people don't have a voice. So I will be that voice to say, and I go back to this line that ultimately really stuck out for me, and what's missing from this plan. And again, I understand paving is important and all the reasons. I'm not suggesting any of what you're saying is not something I agree with. But for me, a priority is that 33% of those households that are cost burdened and wanting to address the issue of affordable housing. And I like that there's stuff here for some of the struggling business owners and the downtown improvement that Mark Barnhart is talking about, and some of the non-tangible, like the arts, improving that I think is helpful for our community. But you know, for me, ultimately, my decision is one of just, again, perhaps it's philosophical. So I know you're making great points, and I wish I could support it, but a delay for me in saying that some of these things are to delay and focusing on some of these things now is I want to impress the urgency of where I think we need to be addressing some of these things. So I hope that we will have the opportunity to address the issues of housing and all those things that aren't addressed in these immediate shovel ready projects. But I hope that explains some of where I'm coming from. And I do appreciate that some of this is mandated. So I know that.
That's fine. You know, and like I said back in July during the workshop, that anyone who had any specific shovel ready or projects to please share them with me. And you know, some of the items that you're mentioning, you didn't send to me. I didn't see anything come from you that you thought we should put into the ARPA list. So, you know, that was 3 months ago. And so we can, I guess, discuss, you know, items that you want to talk about for the future. But there are a lot of people who really need these. Rooster River, for example, those people's homes were devastated and ruined, and they have no recourse. And these are things that should have been done actually quite a long time ago. And so I'll open it up. Tom, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I did. Just a specific comment, Madam First Selectwoman. Could you raise something interesting that was, I guess, another elected colleague had mentioned about, are we trying to move something out of the operating budget? I have the benefit, I guess, of having been around a while, and I was around when the paving budget was actually moved from a bonded item into the operating budget, which was probably about 10 years ago at this point, as well as when we started to fund OPEB. And in both those instances, what we did in order to smooth out the impact on the taxpayer, as well as I think there was one or two other times when he knew there was a blip in spending, we actually did what was called what we always refer to as a transition plan, where we transition from going from one methodology of funding into another over a period of time. So my expectation with something such as paving, I'll just say it right now, is that this funding would be to address the backlog of items that we have. And then I would expect that there would be an increase in the operating budget over a period of years to get us back to whatever the level is that the plan we see in October requires us to fund on an annual basis, so that in fact we don't have another issue where we need to do catch-up adjustments. Because really the catch-up adjustment is just an admission that we fell behind. So the goal here is to fund the catch-up appropriately, mitigating the impact on the taxpayer as much as we possibly can, and then to appropriately fund paving moving forward so that we don't have a situation where we need a catch-up adjustment in the future. We did something similar with OPEB, where we stair-stepped it over time to fund it appropriately. We also did something very similar, though we didn't have ARPA funding available, when we originally tried to appropriately fund paving 10 years ago and bring it up to the recommended annual level. And then you're absolutely right. There were some games played with those funding over a matter of years, which caused some consternation for the town body. So my expectation is funding would be going up in the operating budget to the appropriate level after we do make up for this catch-up adjustment. And that's just that one item. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tom. All right, so if there's no other further discussion, we have a motion on the table and a second for the items on the ARPA list. All in favor? Aye.
No.
Tom? You're on mute.
Aye,
Sorry.
aye,
Oh,
sorry.
okay. The motion carries 2-1. Our next item. Oh, okay. So we put this on the agenda. The RTM had asked for a sort of an update in September about VRIP, and we thought we would provide the courtesy to the Board of Selectmen as well before we do it for the RTM. So I'm gonna this is just the numbers really. This isn't sort of the whole reorganization because that's still ongoing. So we wanted to just give this update on the number part, and I'm gonna hand it over to Jared.
Thank you. And you have in your backup a spreadsheet. It's basically going position by position and showing what happened to that position, starting with the salary that was budgeted for the position, and then the salary savings in the column next to it, and then other adjustments that happen along the way throughout the FY21 year. So this is for FY21 because that's the completed fiscal year. In the end, the net savings was $250,000 after factoring in the savings of the person leaving the position and then any kind of payout to that person for vacation time per their collective bargaining agreement. There may have been some part-time costs that factored in to get us through a period until the position is filled. And then there were some of the positions have been replaced where they were refilled since the participant left. And then there were some that were as was proposed by Brenda. There were some that were just eliminated. So that was.
So Jared, this was in the backup, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through now to find again. My apologies, because I did have a couple questions on this. So
Sure.
it's hard to do it when everything's online, you know.
And just if you're not hearing from Brenda, I guess her computer shut down and she's restarting it right now. So in case there were any questions directed to her.
Hey, I'm back. I don't,
Oh,
there's
there she
like a
is.
yellow thing here. I don't know. It's like I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. So
Okay.
Jared, can I walk across this schedule real quick?
Yep.
All right. So the savings, the salary savings in 21, that's the 676. Then you had vacation payout at 256. That's a one-time cost. You had part-time costs that we had to pay for some of those positions because they left immediately by contract, right? So that's 101. You had $68,000 in replacement costs. What does that represent? Is that their salary and bennies for a partial year? Is that salaries, bennies? What is the 68?
The 68 represents the person who refilled the position. So if we hired somebody during FY21 to refill the position, that's their prorated cost.
So it's the prorated.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is great because it's the one time. So it's basically saying in fiscal year 21, we saved $250,000, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. What I would love to know is what's the run rate savings? What are we going to save going forward by the VRIP? Forget the one time, that's great. What I'm really interested in is 22, 23, 24 and onwards. What's that savings going to be? Once you factor in the people that are here for a full year and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, and we're happy to provide that as time goes on in those time periods, particularly at the end of a fiscal year, to report on what the result was. Is that what you're asking? So that
Well, I think we should be able to.
We could do the same thing for the end of once fiscal 22 is over.
No, I think we can project it. I think at this point you can project it out. You don't have to worry about waiting until it's done. Just project it out. Just because
I can project it. There's still some variables. There are still
Yeah.
some positions that are unfilled that we don't know when exactly they'll be refilled.
But you know what but essentially on an annualized basis, you know what your budget is for those positions. So you could come back and say, as if they were filled for the full year, this is what the savings would be.
We could,
Yeah.
right, as of a given date.
However,
yeah.
it's just, I'm just gonna jump in here. It's a little bit more complicated because, you know, we folded some positions to other positions. We're hiring positions that are a lower rate. It's all very, it's not like fill
No,
one
that's
position with another position.
no,
It's
but
not
that's
that.
savings though. If you combine positions, Bren, Madam First Select Woman, sorry, it's savings. Then you just list that in savings. It's really, you know,
So listen, this is just the numbers that we saved in 21, right, Jared?
Yes, yeah.
So we're planning to hopefully do a presentation on the whole reorganization because it's not just always just about numbers. It's about efficiencies and modernization. So we'll be doing that hopefully in October. But this was just an update on the financials of what we saved for right out of the gate.
mhm.
And that's all it was meant to be.
And that's what it is. Yeah. It'd be good to know on the run rate side.
Yep.
So
All right.
Jared, when you get that, that'd be great.
Sure.
Okay, where are we? All right. Is there any other questions?
I guess just as a follow-up to support what Tom is saying, I think there was some discussion back when this initially had come up that it would pay for itself in X number of years. And I guess for me, I would just be curious about if we're on track for that projection. That's all.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7, thank you, Jared, by the way.
You're welcome.
Item number 7, tax refunds can I get a motion to consider and act upon tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector in the amount of $1,469.02.
So moved.
Seconded.
Is there any discussion on this item?
No discussion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Did we need to make a motion about executive session?
We're not there yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, the last item is to hear and consider and act upon any other business that comes before this meeting. I don't have anything. And so I will ask for a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dave?
Madam First Select Woman.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion on the item we were at in executive session is D. Bonaventura versus Town of Fairfield et al.
Et
And I
al.
would-
Et al.
Exactly. Et al.
Yeah.
And I would like to recommend that we take the counsel of our town attorney in said matter.
And no votes were taken.
And no votes were taken in private executive session. But I would like to make the motion that we take the counsel of the town attorney in said matter. Nance, can you second that?
I second that.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam First Select Woman, I think a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second to my motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Have a good
Night.
night.
You as well.
Take care.
Goodbye.